Vanessa O'Hanlon.
Good evening. The New South Wales government has abandoned its controversial plans to merge more councils in regional areas of the state, but it's refused to back down on amalgamations in Sydney. 6 pending mergers will now be scrapped, including the one between Wollongong and Shellharbour councils.
It was the Premier's day to be different.
Good afternoon, everybody.
To signal that her government is not the same as Mike Baird's.
Had we had our time over, we would have naturally dealt with councils in Sydney very differently to councils outside of Sydney.
It was a backflip of sorts to look after the bush.
Certainty is the key to the success of our regions. It's about bringing democracy.
But in Sydney, they're ploughing on. Mergers will go ahead in the west between Canada Bay, Strathfield and Burwood, Illawarra, Waverley, Randwick in the east, and North Sydney, Mossman, Willoughby, Hunters Hill, Lane Cove Ryde and Hornsby, Ku-ring-gai in the north, with elections to be held as early as possible.
All merged councils and all those councils outside of Sydney who will no longer be merged will be having elections on the 9th of September this year.
The only change is regional councils across the Hunter, Illawarra and Central West, currently fighting forced mergers in court, now won't have to amalgamate. Something that's infuriated critics.
It's just so unfair to have one rule for the bush and another rule for the city.
This is just another puppet on the big end of town.
She's broken, frankly. She'll never recover from that from the point of view of communities.
Disappointingly, the new Premier's continuing the rotten, hated policy of the old Premier.
Premier Berejiklian was considering a proposal which would have given community members a vote on whether their council be de-amalgamated. But 9 News understands she was warned off it by her colleagues because it was too costly and too complicated.
We have local duplication. We have 41 councils across Sydney. That is just not sustainable.
While it is a significant win for the National Party, it won't kill the controversy. And the Premier knows this decision will hurt.
We are proud of our record over 6 years, but we also accept we're not perfect.
The big question tonight is what impact this decision will have on the upcoming by-elections in New South Wales. For the answer, Chris O'Keefe filed this report a short time ago.
Well, Vanessa, sources within the government say today's decision will have a significant impact on upcoming by-elections. There are now 3 seats up for grabs. That is North Shore, Manly and Gosford. It will be the first real popularity test for the new Premier, but MPs are bracing themselves for a very bad result, especially in Ms Berejiklian's backyard. Liberal MPs have told me that if a decent independent runs in the seat of North Shore, there is every chance they could lose that seat. Now, things are looking equally as dicey for Deputy Premier John Barilaro. He has a wafer-thin margin in his seat of Monero, and with Queanbeyan and Palerang already merged, so too Bombala, Cooma, Monaro and Snowy River Shire councils, and the fact de-amalgamations are off the table, it could make things very, very interesting for them both. But Vanessa, both the Premier and the Deputy Premier have said this policy announcement today is about the community, not about themselves.
Chris O'Keefe there, and we'll have more on the scrapping of the Wollongong Shellharbour merger shortly. Now to other news, an unthinkable crime against a woman in her greatest hour of need. As she lay dying after a car crash, she was robbed. Today, the mother who stole her handbag wiped away tears as she escaped jail, while her victim's family showed extraordinary forgiveness.
Sylvia Schroeder says it's the worst thing she has ever done, and that's not hard to believe.
No comment.
Are you sorry for doing that? As aged care nurse Kay Shayler took her final breaths in the mangled wreck of her car last September, Schroeder walked away with her handbag. She and Jason Hall, pictured here at the North Gosford scene, then went on a 3-day shopping spree with the stolen credit cards, buying groceries, alcohol and lottery tickets. Today, Schroeder pleaded guilty to that low act.
The magistrate conceded many would expect Schroeder to be jailed for what she did here, noting the victim was as vulnerable vulnerable as one could be. But he suggested his hands were tied because their spending was at the lower end.
He then handed the 44-year-old a 3-year good behaviour bond and a $700 fine, telling the unemployed ICE addict, every time you have to put your hand in your pocket, you can think about that poor lady.
She's already said her apologies a million times, and I know my mother deep down. She's regretted this ever since, and the day she got sentenced, the day she has healed herself and from God.
Hall was found guilty of his role but will be sentenced at a later date. Although they would have liked a tougher sentence for Schroeder, Ms Shayla's family was extraordinarily forgiving today. They told 9 News Kay was a person who liked to see the good in everybody, so I hope this woman learns from her mistake. The allegedly drug-affected driver who caused the crash will face court again next month. Kelly Fedor, 9 News.
Childcare reform and changes to paid parental leave are again on hold, with the Senate expected to block crucial legislation. The rejection leaves the government struggling to fill a budget shortfall worth billions of dollars.
In Parliament's Great Hall, honouring Indigenous Australians. The two leaders endure an awkward truce to respect the nation's First Peoples.
We have a bipartisan approach on recognition.
Together on recognition, but worlds apart on budget repair.
Obnoxious and abhorrent. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. This was a con job.
And it appears the government's childcare and welfare savings bill is doomed, short on crossbench support.
Look, this just didn't stack up. Too many low-income families would have copped it in the neck.
Malcolm Turnbull needs to recognise that the omnibus bill is now dead in the water.
Nick Xenophon's team joining the Greens and Labor rejecting the bill, unhappy with proposed cuts to family tax benefits.
The childcare package is a good package of measures, but getting it paid for by low-income earners is simply too harsh.
The changes to the family tax benefit system would have saved the budget $2.7 billion, which would have paid for the more generous childcare package. But the government says it can't afford one without the other.
The only alternatives other than that are taxation or more borrowings, and they are not in the best interests of all Australians.
With the all-inclusive bill set to fail in the Senate, the government will also need to dig deeper to find the $3 billion in savings it had pledged to fund the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Why is the Prime Minister holding the future of the National Disability Insurance Scheme hostage to his cuts?
The only threat to the NDIS is Labor's failure to fund it.
Joel Dry, 9 News.
A second person, aged just 12, has been charged in the central west of New South Wales in connection with a grass fire at Orange. He will appear in court next month. It comes as the Rural Fire Service said they have now confirmed 33 homes were lost across the region in Sunday's bushfires, the majority from a blaze around Dunedoo. In breaking news from Washington this evening, President Trump's embattled national security advisor has resigned. Michael Flynn quit after admitting he misled the White House about his contact with Russian officials. He said he gave, quote, incomplete information when he insisted to the administration he hadn't discussed US sanctions on Moscow with Russia's ambassador to the US. A race against time in the US tonight, with workers frantically trying to repair a dam in North California after parts of it came dangerously close to collapsing. Almost 200,000 people were evacuated from their homes when torrents of water began thundering down damaged spillways.
The amount of water gushing from Lake Oroville is not just extraordinary, it could be deadly. With the reservoir reaching record levels, officials were forced to release the pressure, but things haven't gone to plan. Parts of this ageing dam are beginning to erode, and authorities were terrified it could fail, wiping out nearby towns. Almost 200,000 people ordered to evacuate immediately.
I got home and my mom was already packing clothes and told me that we have 20 minutes to get out of here.
They're sleeping on stretchers in churches.
I brought my client with me because she's in a wheelchair, didn't have anyone to help her.
Abel and his family of 6 slept in the car last night.
We couldn't really grab nothing because it was so fast and we were kind of scared.
The crisis began after storms last week. When levels in the reservoir get too high, water is released through a spillway. But a huge hole opened up, leaving officials reluctant to use it, so they relied on an emergency spillway. But that's now started to crumble away and is now dangerously close to collapsing. If it does, the result would be catastrophic. Dozens of towns could be swallowed up.
The threat to communities downstream of the dam is a wall of water that could be up to 3 stories high. Authorities are keeping it at bay at the moment, but they're in a race against the rain. More storms have been forecast to hit this area in just a couple of days.
Workers are urgently repairing that giant hole, but officials warn it could take days.
Repairs may need to be completed in order for us to determine that it is safe to remove the evacuation order and allow people to be back in.
Locals say it feels like feast or famine here. For the past 6 years, California has been ravaged by drought. In Oroville, Laura Turner, 9 News.
Back to the reversal of council mergers, where Wollongong and Shell Harbour councils are celebrating tonight, calling the decision a win for the community. The decision puts to bed months of uncertainty and costly legal fees for councils across regional New South Wales.
Champagne flowing, Shell Harbour Council was in party mode, celebrating a decision they'd been fighting for more than a year.
Somebody pinch me just to make sure that I'm awake and that this isn't a dream.
New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian confirming today the scrapping of the merger between Wollongong and Shell Harbour councils.
In the announcement, finally we've been recognised as an entity in terms of being a region. Politically, we are a region, and that, I think, will help us considerably.
There's absolutely no reason why this merger should go ahead. In fact, the people of Shell Harbour stood to lose a lot more than would ever be gained.
The decision will also mean 7 councillors in Shell Harbour and 13 here in Wollongong will retain their positions until council elections later this year.
The calling off of the merger means we can get on and just do the role that we've been elected for, and that is looking after the people of Wollongong.
James Wilson, 9 News.
Police have charged 2 men after a violent home invasion at a young family's property on the south coast. A mother and her 2-year-old were on the couch when a group of men armed with bats allegedly attacked the father.
The aftermath of a brutal house attack in Sanctuary Point. 4 males allegedly broke into this family home on Carn Street on Sunday night just before 10 o'clock. A couple and their 2-year-old child were inside.
Yeah, at this stage we're still continuing our lines of inquiries, but our line of inquiry does indicate that the victim did have knowledge of the offenders.
The 40-year-old father suffered cuts to his head. Neighbours say this is usually a very quiet street, but they were too scared to chat on camera out of fear of being attacked themselves. Police believe it was a targeted attack.
Yeah, we're investigating this offence. We've still got a number of inquiries to make in relation to the other 2 offenders.
A 16-year-old handed himself into police. Another man was arrested in a street nearby. Both were released on conditional bail and will face court in March.
Yeah, police will allege that the assault took place in the lounge room of the house. At the time, the 2-year-old child was on the lounge, and obviously when this offence is alleged to have occurred, the child was in the area at the time.
Anyone with information is urged to call Crime Stoppers. Alana McIntyre, 9 News.
A search is underway for 2 teenagers missing on the far south coast. Molly McDermott and Phoebe Harris were last seen about 5 p.m. yesterday at a home in Chura Beach. Neither of the 14-year-olds have contacted family since. Anyone who has any information about the whereabouts of the girls is urged to come forward. An electrical fire has caused mayhem in Corrimal. Businesses were evacuated as a busy highway came to a standstill when the small fire got out of control.
It started with a few small sparks, quickly exploding into fierce flames. Lights started to flicker as black smoke billowed from the ground out the front of the Illawarra Credit Union.
Huge flames, and they kept exploding, and it's just like fireworks going up.
Panic gripped the usually bustling street of businesses.
All our customers were going to the window. It started off as a tiny flame and it just got worse and worse.
Emergency crews arrived on scene to find it was an electricity substation that had caught fire. Power was isolated as workers were forced to flee to safety.
It was throwing molten metal out across half the road, obviously a danger to pedestrians and road users.
The Princes Highway was closed as fire crews worked to quickly bring the blaze under control in just 30 minutes.
We could not apply water because being an electrical fire is just going to make the situation worse, so we applied CO2, numerous extinguishers, had little effect due to the high voltage current.
The smell of smouldering smoke was left lingering as people slowly returned to work. Endeavour Energy says defective equipment is what sparked the fire and repairs are now underway.
It was a bit scary because explosions were pretty big, but at the same time it was a little bit exciting for Corrimal.
Rebecca Davis, 9 News.
A bid to save local manufacturing jobs is set to be debated in State Parliament this week. Shadow Minister for the Illawarra, Ryan Park, will introduce the Steel Industry Protection Bill. The legislation mandates at least 90% of locally made steel to be used in publicly funded infrastructure across the state. It also calls for the appointment of an industry advocate to ensure standards and certification for Australian-made steel use is monitored and complied with. Meanwhile, Paul Scully has officially been sworn in as the new member for Wollongong. It comes after the Labor MP claimed victory in the by-election last November. He says creating local jobs will be his focus while in State Parliament. Police have released security footage of a brazen armed robber holding up a service station. The shoeless thief threatened a worker with a gun and demanded money from Holt 7-Eleven on Sunday night. He escaped with a small sum of cash. In the news ahead, love is in the air, how couples celebrated on the most romantic day of the year. The duty-free bargains that are not all they seem, what you need to know before you fly. And the Dragons Young Guns battle it out for a first-grade jersey.
Proudly presents.
Breaking news, the ACT Legislative Assembly has passed a bill allowing same-sex marriages and relationships from other jurisdictions to be automatically recognised as civil unions in the Territory. The ACT government has been pushing for federal politicians to act on marriage equality. 2 people have been arrested after a brazen drug deal outside a courthouse and under the nose of police. A woman was detained in the court building while a man was grabbed after the shortest of police chases.
It was a drug deal that went horribly wrong, and in fact it always seemed doomed. The scene was Taree Courthouse on a sitting day and police were everywhere. The alleged buyer was this 33-year-old woman. This 44-year-old man was the alleged dealer. He was arrested after he crashed his car while trying to escape.
He was on the ground and one of the police was putting his handcuffs on him.
But back to the beginning. The woman allegedly purchased the drugs outside the court and was busted inside as she was about to face a hearing. Back outside, her alleged dealer was quickly identified. He sped off in his car and put it through a front fence of a house 2 blocks away.
I heard tyres screeching and then just a massive big bang.
The man suffered a cut to his head in the crash. Police found an amount of drugs in his vehicle. The woman who was arrested in the court will be back there tomorrow as she and her alleged dealer face several charges. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Police have spent the day combing Maroubra Beach for a missing man after the body of his friend washed up on the shore this morning. It's believed Nepalese university students Shristi Bandari and Sudeep Upriti were swept off rocks when they went swimming together last night. Their housemates raised the alarm this morning after realising they hadn't returned home. It's supposed to be a day you'll never forget, but for one young couple, their wedding was made memorable for all the wrong reasons when one of their guests tried to run people down with his car. Today, the driver pleaded guilty after the entire incident was caught on camera.
It was the moment a bride and groom's special day spun out of control. Wedding guest turned rogue Gary Cicluna pictured here, ploughing his car into partygoers. The last time we saw the 57-year-old, he said he was sorry but not guilty. Security footage showed otherwise. And so today he changed his tune.
No comment.
What he said. Pleading guilty to 4 charges, including driving recklessly and dangerously whilst disqualified and possessing a prohibited drug.
Were you deliberately trying to run anyone over that night?
Police arresting the driver shortly after he sped off with $450 worth of marijuana and a small strawberry milk bottle which he'd customised into a drug pipe.
On the night, one guest was shoved into a garden bed, only narrowly avoiding being struck by the car. Unbelievably, though, no guests or members of the bridal party were injured on that night. The 57-year-old has since contacted the bride and groom to apologise. He says he never meant to ruin their special day.
Tennille and Adam Bradley now have the very worst kind of wedding video. Police facts today revealing the accused served several custodial sentences for driving offences, and it's highly possible this may apply again if found guilty. Cicluna will be sentenced in March. Early Walsh, 9 News.
At least 33 people have died in a bus crash near the Taiwanese capital of Taipei. They were returning from a cherry blossom tour when the vehicle flipped over as it rounded a curve. Early investigations indicate it was going too fast. Another dozen passengers suffered serious injuries. 3 members of the same family have been killed in an avalanche at the French ski resort of Tignes. The father and his 2 teenage sons had been snowboarding when the wall of snow engulfed them and an experienced ski instructor. All were French citizens. Their bodies were later recovered, buried under 2 metres of snow. An all-in brawl has erupted at a pub in the United Kingdom. Video footage captured by an onlooker shows dozens of men blindly throwing punches inside a hotel in Wiltshire. Police said an officer was hit in the face as they responded to the incident but avoided serious injury. Ahead in the news, punishment for a woman who rammed her husband's van in an act of revenge. A trip full of meaning and memories, Prince William to visit the city where his mother died. And Hearts and Flowers marks a day of love.
Scam Mum, her elaborate self-serve.
Figures released today show Australian business conditions are the best they've been in 9 years, despite ongoing worries about the economy. Also better than expected consumer confidence, which is well above long-term averages.
Your confidence to spend these days depends largely on where you live, when or if you bought your house, and whether you can get enough work.
Older people are comfortable because the house values have gone up, and young people are unhappy because they can't get jobs.
But strong profit results from key retailers including JB Hi-Fi and today Nick Scali Furniture show if you've got the right products at the right price, the shoppers are willing to spend.
Low interest rates, there's low unemployment, consumer confidence has got to be high.
That's perhaps another reason why business conditions are so surprisingly strong.
The economy's got through the negative effects that we had in September quarter last year and is performing pretty well.
There's no doubt that rising or falling house prices have the greatest impact on consumer confidence. That's because if your house price is going up, you're more confident to spend. And let's be honest, if you're going to spend, you've got to feel comfortable about your financial position. But there's something else. Prices now are more affordable.
Furniture hasn't increased in the last 20 years. You're buying a leather lounge these days at the same price you did 20 years ago.
And that's not all.
You have much lower petrol prices than they were a year ago or 2 years ago, and you have low interest rates, so there's no reason why the consumer shouldn't be confident.
But all this positivity does come with a warning.
Our concern is not 2017. Our concern is 2018 and what happens then.
The good news? That's a year off. Ross Greenwood, 9 News.
A clean-up operation is underway after fierce storms slashed southeast Queensland. 200,000 lightning strikes were recorded in just half an hour last night. Hail, heavy rain and strong winds also brought down trees and 100 power lines, leaving 26,000 homes across Brisbane without electricity. It wasn't the most romantic Valentine's Day gift. A woman today sentenced for ramming her cheating husband's camper van. The 54-year-old admitted to driving recklessly after video emerged of her running the vehicle off the road on the mid-north coast of New South Wales.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Shit, we got hit.
Just make sure the dash cam is turned off next time.
What were they thinking?
That's what Sonia Roopright from Taree found out the hard way when her jealous rage went viral. The 54-year-old had just found out her husband of 34 years and father of her 4 sons, Danny Roopright, was cheating when she rammed her 4-wheel drive into his van. Do you think Danny maybe deserved that?
I really don't want to talk about it.
Whether he deserved it or not, police charged her with dangerous and negligent driving. And while other couples spent Valentine's Day confessing their love, today Sonia confessed to the very public display of road rage. In sentencing, the magistrate acknowledged the extreme stress Sonia must have felt after discovering her husband had been unfaithful. As it was out of character, she avoided conviction and was instead handed a 12-month good behaviour bond. While she may now be able to put the matter behind her, it could take a lot longer to repair her relationship with her husband. Kate Creedon, 9 News.
Prince William and Kate will visit Paris next month ahead of the 20th anniversary of Princess Diana's death in the city. It will be Will's first official trip since his mother was killed in a car crash in August 1997. The couple will spend 2 days in Paris, March 17 and 18, undertaking around 8 engagements during their time there. It's the most romantic day of the year and plenty were eager to spread the love this Valentine's Day. Florists were under the pump, there were weddings galore and even Sydney's iconic Harbour Bridge marked the occasion.
The heights of love was scaled at dawn this morning. 5 couples kicking off their collective first date by climbing the coat hanger.
Sydney's a lovely city to see from up the top.
Is it worth a second go?
I don't kiss and tell.
The early gurgle of city workers could be found clutching freshly bought bouquets, although some weren't destined for Cupid's bow.
They're for my boss.
Oh, really?
It's her birthday today.
Oh, mate. You and the boss?
No, nothing going on.
Righto. At hatches, matches and dispatches, Valentine's is their busiest day of the year. It was so busy, there were overflow rooms at a nearby hotel.
Farid and I met in Qatar. But we live in different countries and we're finally able to marry here today in Sydney.
The human rights lawyers live separately in Afghanistan and Kosovo. The power of love need not be a fervent flame. Michael Rubenstein and daughter Talia handing out roses to bed-bound patients at the Prince of Wales Hospital.
I'm in here for my heart and Valentine's Day is all about your heart, isn't it?
But for Tad and Elena Gutkowski, love would bloom after first meeting in a Nazi labour camp, where they were Polish prisoners.
About 6 months after we know each other, we married.
They are about to celebrate more than 70 years together this week. And Elena remembers what won her heart.
Oh yes, he got the hair, wavy hair, black wavy hair.
The Day of Love proves that love can triumph over the passage of time, the tyranny of distance and the traumas of history. Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Coming up in 9 News, what you need to watch at Airport Duty Free, where Vegemite can cost $19 a jar. It looked hopeless, so how did a policeman save the passengers inside this minivan? And you couldn't make it up how bell ringing became a dangerous pastime.
Why Kiwi seniors are laughing all the...
Federal government is being accused of putting the cart before the horse in its funding of Sydney's controversial multi-billion-dollar West Connex project. A report has found millions of dollars have been handed over prematurely.
It's one of the nation's largest infrastructure projects, slicing through Sydney in a series of roads and tunnels and costing $16.8 billion. Most of the money for WestConnex is coming from the state government, but today the Auditor-General found both federal Labor and the Coalition jumped the gun in committing billions of dollars in funding before its merits were fully assessed.
It is not unusual for there to be payments at an early stage of the process.
Labor says its funding pledge was linked to conditions, no new tolls on existing roads, and that the new road went to Port Botany and the CBD.
It might be the only project in history in which people have started digging a hole at one end without knowing where it was going to come up.
The report also found the $2 billion loan from the federal government to New South Wales, designed to hurry up the M5 section of the project by 2 years, has done no such thing. Construction is now less than 6 months ahead.
Due processes were ignored or manipulated. Planning has been done on the run from the beginning with WestConnex.
The Auditor-General doesn't criticise the WestConnex as a project, its design, construction or route.
The value in this project is there. Our support for this project remains solid. Sydney needs to change how we tackle congestion.
Lizzie Pearl, 9 News.
A minivan has been washed away trying to cross a flooded road in Peru. A police officer travelling in the vehicle used his pistol to break the windows to help the passengers escape. There were no serious injuries. Flooding throughout the country has affected more than 300,000 people. A bell ringer has been rescued from a dizzying 30 metres after getting a rope caught around his foot in the bell tower at a cathedral in the UK. Stunned worshippers watched as he was eventually brought to safety by firefighters and a specialist rope unit. He suffered a head wound and a fractured bone in his back. A council in Scotland has been forced to apologise after planting trees on the local soccer pitch. The move sparked a huge social media reaction, forcing a council backflip. One wag saying, "Did they expect us to play tree-a-side football?" It used to be the little treat as we headed off on holidays, picking up a deal or two at the airport duty-free store. But an investigation by 9 News has found it's not the bargain it used to be, with some items up to double the price you can get them for on regular stores.
It was a perk of international travel, picking up a cheap camera or that little something extra as you headed out on holidays. Times have changed.
Usually perfume and makeup.
And do you find it that much cheaper?
Not dramatically, no, but it's just a little bit more convenient while I'm on the way and I'm bored, so I shop a little bit.
I am selective, knowing that sometimes you make no saving at all.
With their high taxes in Australia, alcohol and tobacco remain a duty-free bargain.
Products like consumer electronics, fashion accessories, sunglasses, footwear and clothing, generally we're not seeing great prices there. Often we get good prices outside the airport where retailers are discounting.
And here are some of the deals we found that just don't stack up. Beats EP headphones, $132 duty-free, $128 at Officeworks. This Star Wars Lego set, $22.90 at the airport, just $13 at Big W. Perfume, Giorgio Armani C, $128 duty-free, $120 at Chemist Warehouse. Want a jar of Vegemite for your trip? $19, or less than half price for the same jar at Coles. Across a range of items including vitamins and confectionery.
Often duty-free stores are set up for impulse purchasing. So as you're about to exit your checkout with your bottle of champagne or bottle of whiskey, if you see a couple of Toblerones or some chocolate bars, you often find that they're much more expensive.
Tighter security means passengers now spend more time in airports. The experts say that as regular retailers deepen their discounts, duty-free stores have been left behind. The taxes and duties they remove aren't that great anymore, yet airport rents and staff costs remain high.
It's definitely buyer beware when it comes to duty-free.
Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Mike Lorigan is next with Sport. And Mike, it's exciting. T20's back tomorrow and it's in Canberra.
That's right, Vanessa. The Sri Lankans are in town to take on the Prime Minister's 11. Coming up, we hear from Captain Adam Voges about the game and about the future of his international career, and who'd want to be a coach, Tony Popovich, under pressure ahead of the Wanderers' season-defining A-League derby.
Scam mum, her elaborate self-scam.
The Prime Minister's 11 have begun arriving in Canberra ahead of their T20 match against Sri Lanka tomorrow night. It'll be Captain Adam Voge's last game representing Australia. He says it's time for the next generation to make a name for themselves.
The Sri Lankan side getting to Manuka Oval early, their minds temporarily off cricket as they indulge in a spot of pre-training football. Captain Adam Voges among the first Aussies to arrive in the nation's capital for the first T20 format PM's 11.
Last time we played against Malinga was in the Big Bash and he took 6 for 7 against us, so I'll certainly be a bit wary of him.
The West Australian is adamant tomorrow will be his last game of international cricket and he's looking forward to playing alongside up-and-coming faces.
I like the looks of young Jason Sangha. Henry Thornton, I believe, bowls very quick as well. It's opportunity for these young guys to make a name for themselves against an international team.
ACT 11's coach Aidan Blizzard says it's also a chance for his side to prove they're worthy of Big Bash selection.
It's great to have PNG here available to play against us, and I just think it's a great opportunity. T20 cricket's going gangbusters at the moment.
If the PM's 11 remains a T20 format, Cricket ACT says they'd love to keep playing curtain races and aren't fussy who it's against.
Any of the associate nations would be happy to play against at any time, but particularly PNG with the close relationship we've got here at Cricket ACT.
The double-header kicks off at 2:30 with the PM's 11 beginning at 7:15. Rosanna Kingson, 9 News.
They've conquered Australia now. Cronulla is chasing Rugby League's world title, but the Sharks are having a bit of fun along the way, allowing 9 News to join them as they explored London ahead of the World Club Challenge this weekend.
More accustomed to the beaches of Cronulla than the streets of London, these Sharks were like fish out of water. It's Jeremy Lattimore's first trip to the UK.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it's a really old place, but yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful city.
A statue of Churchill had them a little confused. No, it's not Clive. And then there had to be the Abbey. No trip to London complete without a visit to Buckingham Palace. Jack Bird and Chad Townsend hamming it up.
How are you finding it?
Yeah, mate, it's going good. We're just here at the place where the Queen lives.
They were hoping Her Majesty might even pop out to say g'day. But this is not just a holiday in the old dart. The Cronulla Sharks are here to devour Britain's best Super League premiers, the Wigan Warriors.
We've got an experienced team. The blokes have played a lot of footy together, so we're coming here to win.
But Flanagan knows it won't be a cakewalk.
I got some real experienced players there, a lot of test football, so we're expecting a really tough game. And considering they've had a few trials and played a competition game, so they're probably a little bit better prepared than we are.
Much of the next few days will be spent acclimatising, and weather forecasts here look like being kind. It's predicted to reach a balmy 12 degrees. In London, Simon Boda, 9 News.
The Wanderers' finals hopes are at risk of drifting away if they lose this weekend's derby, but the players have told fans to ease up on their criticism of coach Tony Popovic.
We fully back the boss, and everyone believes in his philosophy and the way this season's going. We know we can push on into the finals, and our target's to be in that grand final.
It's been more than 3 years since the Wanderers tasted victory against Sydney FC. Now to the Premier League, and the gap has narrowed at the top of the table after Manchester City defeated Bournemouth. City's 1-0 win puts them in second place, 8 points behind Chelsea, who have fallen back in 3 matches. Dragons enforcer Tarek Sims says no one is guaranteed a starting spot in round 1, including skipper Gareth Widdop. The halves positions have been hotly contested during the pre-season, with a number of young guns looking to secure a first-grade jersey against South Sydney this weekend. Our reporter James Wilson has the details.
Fight for your position. That's the message the Dragon squad have been given ahead of this weekend's final pre-season fixture.
At the moment, I think it's still up for grabs, and whoever puts their best foot forward will probably get their shot.
There's been no bigger pre-season fight than in the halves. NYC graduate Jay Field among a host of players vying for the 6 and 7 jersey. a number veteran skipper Gareth Widdop has held at the club for 4 seasons.
He's our leader, and you know, the way that Mary's picking the team now, his spot's up for grabs as well, because you know, like you said, we've got so much depth and everyone's fine position.
The Auckland Nines and trial match against the Tigers gave Dragons fans a glimpse into the talent pool available. Sean Nona has been impressive in the middle, along with Kurt Mann and Josh McCrone.
There's only one way to get that spot, and that's to play your best footy week in, week out. You know, Joshy's got that old head on his shoulders, and he really knows how to steer the ship around, especially when we're under fatigue.
This weekend will be the final dress rehearsal for the squad before the Dragons' round 1 clash against Penrith on the 4th of March. James Wilson, 9 News.
To basketball now, Illawarra Hawks stars Rodney Clark and AJ Ogilvy have been named among the league's best at the NBL Awards last night. Clark was awarded the 6th man title. He was also 4th in the MVP voting, while Hawks big man AJ Ogilvy was named in the NBL's first team. The playoffs get underway on Thursday with Illawarra taking on minor premiers Adelaide. Speculation continues to swirl. The ACT Brumbies could give dual international Andrew Walker a chance to join the side for the Super Rugby season. At 43 years of age, accepting the offer would make him the oldest player in the competition ever. With Christian Lealifano, Matt Tamua, Stephen Moore, David Pocock and Joe Tamani out this year, it's thought Walker could add some much-needed leadership and experience to the side. The Brumbies take on the Crusaders in Christchurch later this month. How about that? Now, coming up after the break, Gavin Morris has all your local weather details.
Why Kiwi seniors are laughing all the way to the bank.
This is the best time.
Down slightly, the All Ords 2 points lower. Our dollar is up, buying 76.81 US cents. Time for a look at the weather with Gavin Morris. Gav, some perfect February weather is on the way.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yes, this is the sweet spot in between the fronts and the return of the heat. The good news, as I said last night, it won't be as severe as what we've gone through, but it's still going to warm up significantly. Today we had some cloud lingering mostly along the northern coast into the Illawarra. Temperatures up into the high 20s for Canberra, nice and cool throughout Cooma still. Enjoying the cooler weather, that is the tip yet again. A few storms along the northern New South Wales ranges throughout today as the pool of hot air has been pushed all the way back into northern Queensland and the centre, but there's still very much a real lack of cloud cover across the interior, so the pool of heat is going to rebuild in the coming days. A monsoon low in the Gulf and still over the Pilbara as the record-breaking rain continues right across the northern tropics. It's been a big wet season. All of the shower activity confined mostly to the northern New South Wales coast, right throughout the southeast. It is going to warm back up yet again, and that's reflected in the major city forecast. Plenty of 30s on the way from Perth to Adelaide, Canberra, Melbourne, feeling it, even Hobart into the high 20s throughout tomorrow, along with Sydney and the western suburbs. 30 also for Brisbane, seeing some cooler conditions thanks to those southeasterlies. Humidity levels been very high for Queensland, and there's the hot temperatures returning to the Alice as the storms continue right across the northern tropics. There's our winds, variable winds along the coast. Sea breezes building, the nor'easters are going to get up, and the northwesterlies throughout the inland parts, right across the western plains to the ACT and the convergence line, as it loves to do right across the ranges. I don't think there's any chance of rain throughout tomorrow. It should be all north of Illawarra, Sydney, so it is going to be a predominantly fine day right across the region, and that's reflected in the forecast with the mercury returning to about 30 degrees throughout many locations, including the tablelands. Along the coast, we've got the mid to high 20s on the way with the sea breezes building, so getting a little gusty throughout the afternoon session, but temperatures warming up quite quickly, but overnight minimums are quite cool. That's reflected in the local forecast for Canberra, down to 10 degrees, then back up to 30. So back to those 20-degree temperature swings throughout tomorrow in the next 24-hour period. Out on the waterways now, the swell is abating, it's dropping off. It's fairly friendly stuff at the moment. Sea's still a little bit choppy as the sea breezes bite during the afternoon, so the call there is up to 2 metres and the swell abating down to about 1.5 metres. Tidal info, the low is early early, just before 6, and the high there at about 12. Sun to rise 6:31 and down just before 8 as that moon wanes away. The long-range forecast. Here comes the heat again, but only into the mid-30s. We'll take that. Change comes through. Looks like it's going to remain dry across Canberra. We may see some afternoon storm development over the tablelands there as that change moves through over the weekend. Along the coast, we'll see a little more shower activity. The change will be felt a little more as we move into the early part of next week, and it's a similar story also for the southern coast of New South Wales. So a little more heat on the way in the coming days.
Thanks, Gav. And that's 9 News for this Valentine's Day. Tracy is next with a current affair. I'm Vanessa Hanlon. Have a great evening. Good night.
Hello, I'm Tracy.